One of our students asked us to make a video on the term called absurd, and hence this video. Dear students, we have made some videos on literary terms and concepts, and we started a series called hash LT, means literary terms. So you can watch the videos we made on what is act or scene or what is allegory, what is different types of terms in literature. So you can go to the playlist called literary terms and concepts and watch those videos. Now we will discuss in this video what is absurd or the absurd literature or absurd theater or absurdism in literature, and we will understand the meaning. We try to dissect the meaning, and we will also have some prominent features of the same term absurdism or absurd theater, and we also have examples at the end of the video. So stay tuned and watch complete video and understand what is absurd, because if you go to MH Abrams or any dictionary, you find that the term is defined there, but it is in difficult language, and we make the language very simple for these kind of terms used in literature. So here, dear students, hash 5 literary terms absurd, and you are watching literature simply. And this image which you are looking at, I derived from Waiting for Godot. I will explain to this image what kind of persons sat there and what they are thinking. Now, the term absurd is used as absurd literature, absurd theater, absurdist literature, absurdism in literature. So students, there are different types of nomenclatures to the term absurd, and you have these kinds of names to the same term. And there is also a term called absurd theater or theater of the absurd. The term theater of absurd is coined by Martin Aeslin in 1961 to refer to the number of dramatists of the 1950s. So there were prominent sect of the dramatists in the 1950s, and all those dramatists were called as the theater of absurd, or their works categorized under this absurdism. And for the first time, this term is used by Martin Aeslin in 1961, and you have these 1950s writers or playwrights, but the roots of this term is found way before this 1961 or 1950s. Here we have the roots of this term is already found in Alfred Jarry's French play Abu Rai or Abu the King, published in 1896, and in the movements like expressionism and surrealism. Now you have again a new kind of category, existential literature, through which this absurd literature also viewed, and we have the moments like surrealism, expressionism, which began in the 20th century or early 20th century. And in these moments we have the roots of this absurd literature or absurd elements in literature. And there is a play called Abu Rai or Abu the King, which is published in 1896, and it is by a French playwright, and there also we found some of the elements of this absurd literature or absurdism. Now let's try to define what is absurdism, or let's understand the meaning of absurdism. Here we have very first definition by Chris Baldick, which I derived from Oxford Dictionary of Literary Terms, a term derived from the existentialism of Albert Camus and often applied to the modern sense of human purposelessness in a universe without meaning or value. Now, what are the important words or what are the important phrases in this definition, so that we can analyze this definition? The crux of this definition lies in the word human purposelessness in a universe without meaning or value. Now, its meaning is very clear, that human purposelessness is discussed in such kind of place, or the very existence of human being is questioned, and hence we have human purposelessness in a universe in which we do not have any value or any importance to any action by human beings. Why we are evolved or why we are living, what is the use of human beings, what is the existence of human beings, these kind of things or these kind of elements we found in these types of literature, or hence this is called as absurd literature. There is absurdity absolutely involved in the life of human beings, and this purposelessness is discussed, or the purposelessness is shown through the literature, through novels or through prose or through plays. Next, we have M.H. Abrams and Geoffrey Harpam. I derived this definition from a handbook of literary terms, and here they say the term is applied to a number of works in drama and prose fiction which have in common the view that the human condition is essentially absurd, and that this condition can be adequately represented only in works of literature that are themselves absurd. Now let's discuss the important phrases in this definition. Here we have works in drama and prose fiction. Now if you look at the term absurd or absurd literature, you find this absurdism not only in drama, because very prominently it is used in the genre called drama or in drama or plays, but you also have the same kind of absurdism or absurd elements in prose fiction, in novels, novellas, stories, or other kind of literature you find in the category of prose fiction. So it is not limited to drama, but it is also used in the fiction or prose fiction. In prose you find these grotesque elements or frightening elements. Next, we have human condition is essentially absurd. Again, the major emphasis is on the human condition, which is absolutely absurd. Means there is no meaning. The very term absurd is used in the sense that it is meaningless. There is no meaning to the human purpose or to the human existence. Next, we have it is represented only in works of literature. Now, these thinkers or these playwrights or these authors or these poets consider that the human condition is aptly represented only through literature, and hence they are saying that absurdism is aptly represented through the use of literature, and hence it is used in the literature. And again, this literature means themselves absurd. Now this literature also is absurd. We are going to discuss about the features or salient characteristics of this absurd movement. Now why this themselves or this literature is absurd? Because there is no proper form, there is no proper plot, there is no proper setting, there is no proper development of characters, there is no proper coherence in the dialogue. Absurd dialogues are used, and hence this kind of literature or this kind of plays, novels, novellas, stories are called absurd literature, because the absurdity is found in the form itself. Not only it is based on the themes, not only it is based on the characters, but the form which is used in literature is absurd. Means absurd elements are used in the form. According to Chris Baldick, this term or this movement is derived from the existential philosophy of Albert Camus, and here we have a statement or quotation by Albert Camus. Here, what Albert Camus says in the Myth of Sisyphus, published in 1942, it's a novel. He says that in a universe that is suddenly deprived of illusions and of light, man feels a stranger. His is an irremediable exile. This divorce between man and his life, the actor and his setting, truly constitutes the feeling of absurdity. Now you see that man becomes stranger in the universe of purposelessness, and there is a divorce between the purpose of human existence and his life, and hence it is aptly represented in the literature. And this is we have in the Myth of Sisyphus, published in 1942 by Albert Camus. And here you find that this kind of philosophies evolved in the literature, and this literature became famous in the 1960s or 1950s, and this group of dramatists were called existential dramatists, or the dramatists who were writing on the absurd elements in human life. Again, he is giving an example of the setting or the actor. It is very important, actor and setting in the play, but there is divorce between the actor and setting, because there is no coherence between the actions taken by the actor and the setting which he is representing or she is representing in the play. So this divorce is called as the absurd element in literature or absurd element in particular play, particular novel, or particular story. And this is very aptly represented through the absurdity in literature. So I hope, dear students, you understood the meaning of this term called absurd. Now let's understand the features of this term absurdism or absurd literature. The very first feature here we have no logical form, no coherent setting, plot, etc. As I already told you that there is no logical form used in composition. For example, if you have a novel, now that novel does not consist of a proper plot, proper characters, proper setting, or the coherence between plot, setting, or the actions or the characters or the events which are described in the novel or story are just incoherent. So there is no logical form used in this type of absurd literature, and hence it becomes the very first characteristics salient feature of the absurd theater or absurd literature, that is no logical form is used. Number 2, no proper development of characters. Now if you look at the characters in any play, any absurd play like Waiting for Godot, or you have the zoo story, you have the hairy ape, then you have the end game, these characters development is not shown in proper way. So these characters do not have the proper development as we found in the traditional literature, and they are marked the very illogical development in their character or personality. Even personality traits, black comedy or black humor is used in this type of plays. Number 3, absurd dialogues. So there is no meaning to the dialogues. For example, we have a dialogue from Waiting for Godot. The Waiting for Godot is a play based on two tramp characters who are waiting in a west place, and just they are waiting for someone, some person, and they remember that they might have set an appointment with that person, but again they remember that there is no such person, there is no such kind of thing for which they are waiting, but they are waiting. So this kind of absurdity is shown in the Waiting for Godot. And there is a statement in Waiting for Godot that nothing happens, nobody comes, nobody goes, it's awful. Now these kind of dialogues are used in the play Waiting for Godot, and they are waiting for someone who is non-existence or who does not exist, and still they are waiting, but they don't know for whom they are waiting. This kind of situation is presented in the play called Waiting for Godot. Next feature, realistic illusion. So you don't have just illusion but realistic illusion. You find, you think many times that these things may happen in real, but it's a illusion, or it's not in reality but realistic illusion, often used in the place like Caretaker. We have Mick and Davis, this character also represent this realistic illusion. Next we have meaningless human existence, which is the very base of this kind of dramas or this kind of literature. Next we have irrationalism, helplessness and absurdity of life, which is represented in Samuel Beckett's Waiting for Godot and Endgame. And next feature we have grotesque elements. Now horrifying elements, frightful elements, serious elements, grave elements are used in this drama. If you read Waiting for Godot, you find grotesque elements. If you read The Caretaker, the zoo story, Edward Albee is very famous. Then you have the hairy ape, the character Yank represents some grotesque elements, or his quest for identity is marked by this absurdity. Who am I is the question he always thinks about, and this kind of things lead him to the grotesque element or the serious condition, serious situation in the play. And this is a very basic feature of absurd theater or absurd drama or absurd novel. Now, dear students, I hope you understood all the features. Let's know what are the examples of absurd literature. Very first, we have Alfred Jarry's French play Abu Roy or Abu the King, 1896. Then we have Franz Kafka's The Trial. It's a novel published in 1925. Then we have Metamorphosis, published in 1915. It's a novella. Then we have Albert Camus' The Myth of Sisyphus, 1942. It's a novel. Eugene Ionesco's plays The Bard Soprano, 1949. The Lesson, 1951. Then we have Samuel Beckett's plays Waiting for Godot, published in 1954. and Endgame 1958. Then we have some of the plays of French playwright Jean Genet. We have Harold Pinter's The Caretaker 1960, American Edward Albee's The Zoo Story 1959, Tom Stoppard's plays Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead 1966, Travesties 1974, Joseph Heller's novel Catch Tutu 1961, Thomas Pynchon's novel Fifth or V 1963, John Irving's novel The World According to Gap 1978, and some novels of German Gunter Grass. Now, so there are many plays and novels which come under the category of absurd literature, but here we thought about only prominent. Now these examples are very important in literature, and with these examples I hope you understood what is absurdism. So this is all about the absurd theater or absurd literature, or what is absurdism in literature. I hope dear students you got what I wanted to convey you. And still if you have any problem, any query, you can directly comment below in the comment section, or you can email me to contact literature simply at gmail.com, or also you can join our telegram channel called literature simply.